Hiya, I'm going to have a go at this book club task, working through it quickly just to help you understand some of the answers. So, we've got a book club website. Here's HTML for the home page and then the CSS. I should point out I didn't make this task. This is one from Greg Reed, the SQA Principal Assessor. So, it's a good one to do because he's in charge of coming up with exam questions and so on. Anyway, let's have a look at these. So, first of all, a design notation with which you're familiar, draw the navigational structure of the book club website. So, I think just looking at the HTML here, I mean, really, we just look at the nav bar. I am in the lucky position of having the marking scheme here. So let's just have a quick look at it. Basically, we've got a home page and there's these 4 other pages. They're going to link together as a structured diagram. I mean, you're having to make some assumptions here. Personally, I would make a bit of an assumption that they're all linking to each other. But this is a marking scheme from the guy who made the task, so he's got a sort of hierarchical thing here. But I would have said if there's a nav bar, consistent nav bar on each screen, then actually they would all link to each other. It's more of a mesh or web, you could call it, layout. Anyway, that's that. I think that's reasonably straightforward. Next, state an example of where grouping selectors have been used to write efficient code. So grouping, remember, is just a comma in your CSS selector. So look for anywhere that uses commas. So line 4, there we go. Rather than having 3 lines saying nav, margin top 5 pixels, main, margin top 5 pixels, footer, margin top 5 pixels, you combine them all into one. Group them together using this grouping selector. And there's another one here. Header and footer. Rather than 2 separate CSS rules, we've combined them into one. Okay. So just line 4 and 14 there. Rewrite part of the CSS file to make the code more efficient. Basically, that's looking for you to use grouping. Find a bit that hasn't used grouping that could have. So find some stuff that's got the same rules applied to it. And the only one I can see, and coincidentally the only one in the marking scheme, is this. Header, footer and main have all been given the same padding rule, all 5 pixels all the way around. So you could combine that into one. Header, comma footer, comma main, and then padding 5 pixels. That will apply padding 5 pixels to all 3 of those. I'll just show you in the marking scheme just so you can see. There you go. Excuse all the nasty underlining and stuff. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. Of course, it doesn't matter what order you write these 3 selectors in. The fact is, they're grouped together. Okay. It's fun, isn't it? What am I doing? Right. Navigation bar for the website has been implemented. State the purpose of of using child selectors when coding navigation bar styles. So here we've used the descendant selectors. So that means this style will apply to UL elements, but only those that are inside a nav element. And here, these styles will apply to LI elements, but only those that are inside UL elements. So it won't apply to any ordered lists. And again, and also only if that UL is also inside a nav. So these, and then we're on to anchors, hyperlinks. So A tags, but only if they're inside a list item, and only if that's inside an unordered list, and only if that's inside a nav. So why do we do that? Well, it basically means if I've got more than one unordered list on my page, maybe there's one somewhere in amongst the text, the main content of the page, I don't want it to necessarily be styled in the same way as the nav bar. So this ensures that the styles only apply to that particular one. Another way, I mean, I could give each list item its own, a class. I could put them all in a particular class if I wanted. That'd be another way around it. But that requires me putting class equals whatever into each list item. This is quite a neat, efficient way of doing things. let's see what it actually says here. Ensure the styles are applied to the child elements only if they're inside the nav element. Yeah, okay. Right, the last one here. This is quite difficult, and it says marks 1 here, but it's actually worth 11 marks in the marking scheme. So we have to draw how the navigation bar will look when viewed in a browser. It's quite difficult to do this. We have to include all the information. Take care to include all 10 style declarations. Right, let's have a look at this stunning PowerPoint I've created to try to take me through it. I mean, basically, we have to look at this bit in the HTML, lines 16 to 24. That's the nav bar. And then we have to look anything that refers to nav or UL or LI or A. The styles are going to be applied to that. So any CSS referring to any of those. So I've gone through this, and let's see this stunning thing I spent ages on. Right. So first of all, if I look at the nav element, these are all the bits of information I can find about all the styling information I can see in the CSS. It's going to have that was all grouped. Just tried to fit it in differently. It's going to have a top margin of 5 pixels, so it should be 5 pixels down. There should be a gap of 5 pixels between it and the element before it. It's got a background color of dark blue and a height of 48 pixels. Okay, and by default, a nav element is a block element like div and all the other semantic elements. It's a block, which means it takes the full available width that is there. So in this case, I think it's just inside the body, so it'll be the full width of the body. Okay, that's what block does. Okay, inside the nav, there's an unordered list. I'll just let me flick back to it wherever I am. There we go. So look, we've got nav, and then inside it there's an unordered list, and we've got styling information for I can't even find my where is it running? Resume slideshow, there we go. So we've got an unordered list element, and the only styling information we've got for that is list style type none, so none of the list items in it will have a bullet point of any sort. And it'll take, I've done it in red here, it basically is going to take up the the full width of the nav element. Right, then inside the unordered list we've got LI elements. I've done them in light blue here. That's not really anything to do with it. I was struggling to demonstrate this. So there are 5 LI elements. Again, let me just go back to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 list items. Now, sorry, this is really slick, isn't it? The way I'm flicking back and forth here. This bit here is important. Float right. That means the first LI element is going to float to the right. It's going to move over here to the right. So this is the first LI element. The next one will come up and push in beside it. Okay, so they're all pushing to the right. They're all floating to the right. And then, so that's first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. They're all pushing to the right. And I just ran out of room here, but the nav UL elements could go on much further than that. These will all be pushed to the right. It so happens that the way I did it, they ended up kind of filling up the available space. Each one is going to be 140 pixels wide. Whoa, steady on hill. It's going to have a left margin of 10 pixels, so this first one pushes to the right. There's a 10 pixel gap on the left. Rather ominous door knock there. 10 pixel gap to the left, and then the second one's pushing up beside it with a 10 pixel gap on its left. Okay, any text or text element inside it is going to be left aligned, so it's going to be here. Okay, I'm not sure if this visual aid is going to help at all, but I tried. Then, within that, we've got some A elements. So, again, let me just flick back here. Here's the list item, and then the first list item element, li element, is this hyperlink with home in it. So, there it is. Home's the first one. And this is a key point to get when they're floating to the right. You get it in kind of reverse order. Because that pushes up to the right, that pushes up. Okay, you get it. Their display block. So normally an A element would be inline, which means it just takes up the space that's required for its contents. So like it would only take up as much as required for home. But block means it takes up the full available width of its parent element. So that means this anchor element, this A element, which I've done here in a lovely grey, because that's the colour it's given, the content's actually taking up the full available width. Now, we also have to take into account padding, 15 pixels all the way around. So I know this, I haven't done this to scale or anything, but 15 pixels there, 15 pixels on this side, and the top and the bottom between it, and then any margins. It's got no margins. Margins and padding are always 0 by default, not just in anchors and anything. And its colour set to white, and background colour light grey, and it's underlined because by default A elements are underlined. I don't suppose you'd lose marks for that. And then we've got the hover. So when we hover over any element, it's going to go light blue background. Any A element, rather. Light blue background and dark blue text colour. Let's have a quick look at what the actual marking scheme says about that. That may not have helped at all, in which case sorry, and I just wasted half an hour of my life getting that ready. But maybe it'll help some of you understand a bit. So the marking, I mean, navigation choices drawn as boxes. I mean, that's basically because it's display block rather than inline. So it's because of that bit there, display block. 5 boxes aligned to the right of the page. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell on mine particularly, but they were pushed to the right. I don't know if aligned is the right word. 5 boxes are floated to the right. I didn't write this, so that's my excuse. Page names are written from right to left, so that's to do with the floating right. You've got home over here, remember? So home over here, and then adventure, and then factual, even though they're actually, you know, that might not be the order you're expecting to see them in, kind of reverse order. This is about the slickest video I've done yet. So a lot of labelling. Boxes are labelled as grey, 15 pixel gap around it, and this is all colours. Link text is centred vertically. Again, that's to do with the 15 pixel padding and the fact it's block. So there you go. That's not easy, but it is the sort of thing that you could potentially have to do in an exam. You know, read some code and sketch out what it's going to look like. So, you know, if you haven't got the hang of nav bars yet, play about with them a bit more. It, by the way, it's a really unpleasant looking nav bar. I've got it right here somewhere. I mean, this must be it. Let's just let you see it in Chrome. I mean, it's dreadful. You can stop the video now, by the way, if you don't care. It's going to take about 20 seconds. I mean, look at that. Oh, there you see the floating right a bit better, actually. But, I mean, it's just grim, isn't it? Anyway, there you go. Hope that helps some of you. See you.